Welcome to Why I Left, a podcast that explores the Great Resignation. I'm your host, Brian Akar. Join me as I chronicle real stories from real people about the reasons they decided to leave their jobs during the pandemic and what has happened since. Hello, and thanks for tuning into this episode of the Why I Left podcast. In today's episode, I chat with Tomeka Jordan. Now, after working in operations management in the supply chain industry for over a decade, Tomeka made the ultimate pivot to marry her love of travel with her career, and then joined the Great Resignation to become an international flight attendant. Now, I enjoyed hearing how much she's built her confidence over the past year to do more of what she loves. Let's go check it out. All right, welcome back. So our guest today is Tomeka Jordan. Tomeka's experience during the pandemic led her to finding a career that better aligned with her values, so she became a flight attendant. Now, I'm excited to have her share her journey of self-reflection during the Great Resignation, so this should be really good to hear. So hi, Tomeka. How you doing today?
Hi, Brian. I'm doing good today. How are you doing?
Pretty good. I appreciate you joining us. So before we get into any Great Resignation talk, I would love for you to tell us a little bit about where you're from and where you currently call home.
I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and I still call Atlanta, Georgia home, even though I love to call Florida my second home. Right now, with being an international flight attendant, I'm kind of currently all over the place, but Atlanta will always be home for me.
No, that's great. And now, what have you been passionate about in the work that you do?
Currently, my passion is travel, but with that, getting to know people, bottom line, is my passion. So learning what their needs are, learning who they are, and kind of what their purpose of in life is what my passion is.
Oh, that's great. And now, prior to becoming a flight attendant, I'm definitely going to ask you a little bit more about that, which sounds very exciting. You know, a little jet setter over here. But prior to doing this, tell us a little bit about your work journey and what's worked well in the environments you've been a part of.
Well, my work journey started off with construction management. Got into that because of the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta. Got a lot of construction going on around in my neighborhood from trying to revitalize the area. Also, my mother does property management, so I was always around a lot of contractors and vendors. So I naturally was interested in being into the construction field. So wanted to go into that field, or so I thought. The Great Recession put me way behind with that field. So I went into my master's program, getting my MBA, and went into restaurant and retail management. With that, I was able to, explore more and get to know more of my passion of dealing with people, with the management side of things, getting to know people, like I said, getting to know what they want, what they like, and intermingling that with matching what they wanted and needed with what the business offered, what they want, what they need with business needs, and matching those two together to fulfill what they needed with what the business matched. So I did retail and restaurant management for a while after college, about 6 years with that. Got burned out from doing that and went into supply chain management after that. So more so behind the scenes of getting the products to the businesses, so to fulfill that need for different businesses. So with that, being able to work behind the scenes, matching what businesses needed to supply them with what they needed from behind the scenes aspect side of things. So fulfilling the store's orders with different supplies as far as filling their shelves, or even from the construction side of things, even working with trying to get them supplies to fill new stores and building them up. So from e-commerce, also doing retail build outs and whatnot. So been doing a lot of things in retail. So kind of took the leap of faith one day when the pandemic happened and said, you know what? Done a lot of retail, done a lot with things here on the ground. So wanted to get up in the air, get more into the travel side of things, and kind of do something for myself for a while, and, get to explore more of the world and do something, like I said, for myself, get back to traveling. Because during the pandemic, the world was shut down. No one was going anywhere. So when the world started to open back up, decided to go out and explore and get paid to do it. So, why not enjoy my travel, my love for travel with getting paid? It sounds like a win-win solution to me.
No, that's good. And so let's talk a little bit about, what happened in March now. So March 2020 is when really the world shuts down because of what we now know is the pandemic. And I'm sure everyone thought it was just going to be a couple weeks and then we get back to life as normal, but definitely that didn't happen. So talk a little bit about how the pandemic affected you.
So the pandemic was a very huge impact on my life, especially when it came to the job. My anxiety levels went through the roof at that point in time. I was already with a company I didn't too much trust at that point. The management part of it, anyway. I love my associates, don't get me wrong, but it was the management, upper management, anyway, that I didn't trust. It was a family company, so they kind of ran it the way they wanted to anyway. They got rid of some very good people who I thought, and they had some very bad practices, especially me coming from some big box retailers from that time, and just kind of seeing the things that how they were running things and practices that I've known from before, and it didn't match from what I knew to what they were doing, and my trust levels was just going through the door. So already having those bad feelings in my gut from before the pandemic started to now seeing them getting rid of people in masses just to downsize and restructuring, my trust levels just kind of went out the roof. My anxiety went even further out the door because out of my office, I was the only one that was sent home to work from home. So I was like paranoid at home every day because I'm just like, I don't really have a work from home position. So I was just like, I felt like I was working harder just to prove to them that I can work from home, number one. And number two, like, this job, I can make it work from home, even though it's not a work from home position, if that makes any sense. So it was like I was struggling to
No, it
keep that
does.
balance of proving myself in a position that's not work from home, but working from home at the same time while trying to prove to them that, this job and my position is valuable to them. So I can keep the job. So I was anxious and just on edge all the time, trying to keep a job that I was not happy in, if that makes sense.
No, definitely. And so what did you learn during this time during the pandemic?
I kind of learned, one, to kind of trust my instinct and to build a circle of trust. That was very huge for me because with my anxiety levels, it was like I had to learn, like, I can't do this on my own, to seek help. That was like the biggest thing for me, to seek help. I don't hold anything in. So, like, one, I did seek medical help, which was very much needed. So I definitely encourage that for anybody, especially with May being Mental Health Month. I definitely encourage seek the mental help that you need if you are not feeling comfortable in your own skin and your own mind. Definitely seek the mental help, medical help that is needed. So I learned that about myself, that I did need that, and to build that circle of trust, and that you can't always trust your mind, and that circle of trust is needed because you sitting in your mind. And like I said, I was working from home. So I was just sitting in my mind, in my own thoughts, just like pondering what could be happening at the office and what meetings were going on that I was unaware of. So I had to build my trust in my companions back at work and say, hey, what's going on? Fill me in on the daily activities, even though I'm not there. And I built a friendship out of that. People I communicate still to this day, even though I don't work there. And even when I went to a different warehouse, I was able to take that, building that circle of trust, to my supervisors there and say, I know you guys don't know me, but let me use some of these tactics that I used at my old warehouse and build a circle of trust with you guys. And it just built our camaraderie up to where we were able to not only work together as a working relationship, but outside of work. And even when I left that position, they still had that camaraderie to where they were able to still succeed and lean on each other. And to this day, we're able to communicate. And if they need anything, they contact me to this day. And that is something that I've encouraged every team that I've worked with, don't be afraid to reach out and lean on each other. Even if, like I said, if I were to leave the company, I want to be able to be that person that they lean on, because I don't ever want to feel like I've left somebody in a bad position to where they were left in a position where they can't succeed, because that's my ultimate goal. Is if I can't build somebody up, then I failed myself.
Yeah, no, and relationships are definitely important. And so you mentioned something earlier about like the Great Recession a little bit, and I know that's something that resonates with me for sure. So tell me a little bit about the similarities between what you remember the job market being around that time, Great Recession. So that's what 2008, 2009, and now to when you were deciding that, hey, maybe this time it's maybe time for me to move on.
Yeah, so it was great similarities, but kind of opposite actually. So the Great Recession was actually when I graduated from college. And at that time, it was a time of survival. So most people, when they graduate from college, they have opportunity after opportunity waiting for them when they graduate from college. But for me, and you may recall, it was the opposite. It was like a struggle trying to find anything. So we had people that were either going back to school or staying in school or just taking whatever jobs they could get just to survive. I know for me, I had student loan debt out the wazoo. So I had to find something just to pay back those loans within those 6 months that were going to come knocking at the door. So I did defer by staying in school a little bit longer and getting my MBA. So which led me to, instead of going into construction management, going into the retail and restaurant industry. So it was, I felt even after that, I was being preyed upon because I was taking like these management training positions, which I felt like was preying upon college students, because it's like you work these glorified management jobs, but it's like you just wear a suit and tie just to, for instance, I worked for the enterprise management training program, and I was wearing a suit and tie, washing cars all day for 10, 12 hours a day. But like I said, it was survival mode. But I felt like the pandemic made me realize that, you know what, I did it. I went in survival mode during the Great Recession. If I did it then, I can do it again, because when I went into my thinking closet, I would say, for if I was going to be able to take the flight attendant position, I was taking a 70% pay cut. So I was like, I've done it before. This is something I want to pursue. So why not do it? I haven't traveled in 2 years. This is something I love to do. I'm going to get paid to do it this time. I don't have to pay a travel agent. It's going to be set up for me. I'm going to get paid to travel. So, girl, do it. It built up my confidence this time. I'm not in survivor mode this time. So, it was the recession actually helped me to build up my confidence to do something I wanted to pursue. And instead of me being in
No, that's great.
survivor mode, I was opposite this time. I was in confidence mode. So
I like
the
that.
similarities are there, but opposite. So
Got it. Okay.
I think there were more opportunities opened up this time actually, because it was like there was a need for people during the pandemic versus in the recession, everything kind of fell out the bottom. So
Right. And now you talked a little bit about being in the operations space, and it looks like you were in that industry, like we mentioned, for about 10 years. And so
yeah,
you eventually decided, look, September 2021, it's time for a change. So why did you leave your job during the pandemic?
I was burned out at that point. And actually, before the pandemic started, I was starting to get more into religion, Christianity. And during the pandemic, it got stronger and stronger. And there's this thing in Christianity is that when God makes wants you to move, he makes you uncomfortable. And I just kept feeling this nudge and kept getting really sick. And one of my supervisors, she was just like, you're not comfortable in this space because it's time for you to move on. She was actually with me when I made the statement saying, I'm just going to go be a flight attendant. And like ever since I made that statement, she was just like around me each time. I was just like, I'm not feeling good. You know, my neck is hurting. I can't get rid of this headache. She's like, you know, that's God's way of telling you to go ahead and move on. So it was just I was uncomfortable being there at that point. Second warehouse, I love my associates. It was a much better environment than where I was at before working from home, but it was just that nudge, those aching pains that was just telling me to move on, get rid of any doubt, get rid of all the naysayers in my mind and in my environment that was telling me that it's not for me to do, and just move on and pursue this opportunity. So the burnout, the pain, all the naysayers, it was God's way of telling me to just become a flight attendant. The news articles that kept popping up during my lunch breaks, just go be a flight attendant. And that's what I did.
That'll help. That'll
Yeah.
definitely help. And so now you make this decision. So now how did making that decision to leave impact you?
So the impact it was huge on me because, like I said, there were naysayers, believe it or not, my own family that were telling me, you know, don't do it. There were friends who were around me saying, girl, that's not for you. What you going to do with your house? You're going to do with your car. They don't make a lot of money. And I had to turn those arguments into a reason why to do it, you know, and I had to use those reasons they were telling me not to do it and come back that and say, okay, yeah, they're giving me reasons or obstacles rather that I have to overcome, and just prepared for those. You know, yeah, I'm not going to make as much money, but this is what I need to do. Make sure I'm financially stable. So I created budgets for myself. I created side incomes in which I could make money to survive, stuff like that. What do I do with my house? I can rent it out. What do I do with my car? I can rent it out. What do I do about X, Y, and Z? All of the things that they telling me what I do about or how do I feel about, I just created plans to overcome that. So the naysayers, all they did was make me plan out my life differently. All I had to do was just make different plans, and something I've never had to do before is just put me outside of my comfort zone. I mean, with logistics, that's all I did was make plans. So it just made me plan differently. Another thing that made me do, like I said, was build my confidence. It was all about just taking me out my comfort zone. So it was all about, like I said, getting comfortable with what God was telling me to do, listening to what He was telling me to do, and just going forward. Talking with my managers and with my supervisors and saying, you know, this is what I plan to do. Building up and knowing who to trust. Like I said, that's that circle of trust, and saying, this is what I want to do. And they will tell you, you know, go forward. This is what you need to do. So that circle of trust, you'll know who they are. So find them, seek them out, and they'll tell you, yeah, go do this, X, Y, Z. If you need this, reach out to me. And they will contact you throughout the process and keep in contact with you. And those are the people that, even if you're going through it, like I have doubt some days, and I'll call them up and be like, hey, how are you doing? Yeah, I'm doing this. How are you feeling? And they can tell in my voice the days that I'm not doing so good, and they'll talk me through it and build that confidence back up in me. So all of it is all about, at the end of the day, just getting out my comfort zone. And that's the biggest thing that I think I've gotten through this experience, because the pandemic, it took a lot out of all of us. It put us where we felt like we were just not going to get over it. But I think we were living our lives before in such a way where we were just comfortable, like nothing could go wrong. So I think this pandemic actually got me to a point to where I got out of my comfort zone, and I was so uncomfortable. And now that I'm able to overcome it and I'm out my comfort zone, I'm happier, I'm glowing, and I'm doing what I want to do.
No, that's great. That's great. So you talked a little bit about kind of what you learned about yourself through the process. And now, and I think it's great that you shared that. And I appreciate you being so open about some of the mental health issues that you got addressed, right? I've been talking to a lot of folks on the program who have raised similar things. I actually just spoke to our first therapist on the show recently, and so it's great to hear that you got those services and resources that you needed. So now talk to us a little bit about what has happened since you left. I've kind of been teeing it up for you as a flight attendant. You've mentioned it a couple of times. So what's happened since you left and this international flight attendant, right? So tell us about that.
So what's happened since I left? With me personally, like I said, I've gained a lot of confidence. I've been able to reach my goal of travel to every continent except for Antarctica. I've came close, but it's still one of those restricted places to where we cannot travel to. So that's been an amazing journey to be able to experience. And I've done that with only working with a company for 6 months, gained a huge network. So getting more confident in talking with people and reaching out to people and just learning their stories, that's been just some amazing stories I get to hear about people and their travels and their journeys and how just where they've come from and developed their lives so far. But like I said, one of the things I love to do is develop people and just being able to reach back into my old jobs and bring them up from where they are. Actually, two of my old supervisors have been promoted, so being able to walk them through the process of how to get their promotions has been something I've helped them talk them through, how to use their skills to get the promotions. That just made my heart happy to know that they got that promotion. And I had another coworker who left the job that we had and start his own business. So it's just amazing to hear like just people's stories and hear where they're going from and coming from and where they're going, from me saying I'm going to leave this 6-figure job to pursue a passion of mine. So just to find happiness and confidence in myself.
Yeah, no, that's great and courageous. And my own plug on based on one of the things you said is if that gentleman who left to start his own business is interested in being a guest on the show, you know where to share my contact
Yeah.
information with him. Would love to
I
have him
got
on
you.
if he wants to do it. Okay. So now a part of the show I always like to give our listeners some advice from the guests that we bring on. So I think that's an important aspect of this because this phenomenon is not new, right? And I think yes, Great Resignation is a bit trendy now, but I think the idea that people leave their jobs is something that's consistent, regardless of what trend you want to put on it. And so when you think about those who are listening now, who may have had similar experiences to yours, what advice would you give to them?
The advice I would give is when you're no longer passionate about something, when you no longer feel your heart is into something, when you feel that nudge, that pain in your neck in something that you're working for, or when you're working for somebody, use that as your indicator that it's time to move on from that position. Pursue what you love. Like I said in my story, use what the naysayers are saying to you as obstacles to overcome to make that plan to help you to move on. Like I said, mental health is huge right now, so don't be afraid to seek it out no matter what the negative commenters may be saying about it. I know a lot of people turn towards religion. I mean, use religion if you want, but seeking mental health is it's a thing too as well. So don't be afraid to seek it out at this time. So, but definitely pursue what it is that is truly in your heart. It may not be the most glorious thing to other people. It may not be the highest paying job or career to go after, but if it is something that is truly what you want to do that will bring you happiness at the end of the day, go for it. Because at the end of the day, you have to live for you, your family, or whatever, or whoever it is that you have to support.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And so now as you embark on this next stage of your professional career, what's the impact you're looking to have?
So, my impact, like I said, is I always want to be an inspiration or just help the next person behind me. So I want to be that inspiration for whoever wants to pursue what it is that they may want to pursue. So my next job, it may not, like I say, may not be the most glorious thing, but I hope it is something that I enjoy doing. So I do hope, if it is not me doing being a flight attendant, that my next career path takes me along somewhere where every day I'm smiling, every day my peers see me happy, where they can ask me anything and be like, what makes you smile? And I'm able to tell them truthfully that it's me coming to help you guys out every day, me coming to help the customers out, me coming to help meet the company goals. So I want to be that inspiration to help the next person behind me to either grow or just pursue what it is, whatever it is that they may want to do.
Oh, that's great. Well, Tomeka, this was really good. I just want to thank you for taking some time to speak with me today. And
No
look, I
problem.
think it's great to hear, your story, and I'm sure some other folks are going to be interested too. So now, where can our listeners support you or follow you?
I am on Instagram trying to build up my travel stories on that platform, and I am known as Meeko08. That's MEEKO08. And you can start to follow me there, where I'll start trying to build up my travel stories there. Still trying to figure out the whole editing process. So once I get that figured out, you can follow my travel journeys there.
That'll be great. And look, I think there's always a market for those things. So I'm proud of you for getting that started. So, well, that'll do it for today's episode. Again, I want to thank Tomeka Jordan for joining us today. I'll be sure to share her information where you can find her in the show notes. So I hope everyone has a great week, and we'll see you next time. Tomeka, thanks again.
All right, no worries. Have a good week, everybody. Safe travels.
The Great Resignation, people leaving their jobs in droves. There's a lot of buzz happening in the job market of late. Now, did you or someone you know leave your job during the pandemic and want to share your story? We've been having some really good conversations in this space, so if you're interested, I'd love to have you join the program. If so, here's how you can do it. First, you can email us at hello@whileft.co. That's hello@whileft.co, or visit us online at whileft.co. That's whileft.co. Look forward to having you join the conversation. Thanks again for listening to Why I Left. Be sure to join us next time for more stories from the Great Resignation. Visit us at www.whileft.co. That's whileft.co. And subscribe to the show on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.